Namaskar students, welcome again to Essential Electricals. In today's lecture we are going to discuss about the different kind of supports which are generally used in case of overhead transmission and distribution system. So if you haven't subscribed my channel, please go and subscribe my channel and give the thumbs up to this video. Now let's get this lecture started. So the first question is, what is the need of the supports? So in overhead transmission system, your conductor should be run above the ground from one place to another place with the help of your line supports. Now we are using three kind of line supports. The first one is wooden type of, which are generally used in case of distribution system, RCC type and steel type. Okay. Now here you can see that your insulators are kept on the cross arm, which is fitted on your either steel kind of or any kind of supports is there. Okay, and your line or the conductor is going to be connected with the help of insulator to the tower, so your heavy current cannot flow from the conductors to ground. Okay, so this is basically the need of the supports. Now we are going to briefly discuss about the wooden kind of supports, RCC and steel kind of supports, and we will see what kind of supports are generally used in case of distribution system and in case of the transmission system. So before going to start or discuss these kind of support, let us just discuss what are the different properties that your line support should possess. So the first one will be the light in weight. So obviously your transmission tower should be light in weight because the transportation cost will be heavier in case if your supports will be heavier. Okay. The second is the strength. So the mechanical strength of your supports should be as high as possible. Okay, because it should have to carry the conductor which is having a heavy weight. Okay, it in some cases it also should have to withstand the heavy wind blows and also the storm. Also some kind of case it has to be withstand the snowfall. So the mechanical strength of your line support should be as high as possible. The third is longer life. Obviously, because we always carry the maintenance, and your line support should be having a long life, so we don't have to replace your supports. Okay. The third is it should be economical, so the cost of line support should be not too high. The fifth is accessibility. So the line support should be easily accessible for the future planning as well as for some kind of paintings is required, because otherwise it will, if the wooden pole is there, then the moisture will be more in case if the steel pole is there, then the rusting will be the issue. So painting is necessary, so it is accessible for painting, as well as we are used to mount your insulator on the cross arm. So if it is accessible, then in that case we will easily, we can say, install the insulator on your cross arm. Okay, the sixth is reduced maintenance. So the line support should be such that the maintenance of is very less. Okay, and the last is good appearance. So appearance of line support should be good, especially in case of distribution system, because these are generally used to be in case of CTs. Okay, so your appearance should be as good as possible. Okay, now let us discuss the next thing. Okay, so let us first discuss about the wooden types of pole. Okay, so these kind of poles are generally used in case of distribution system, and plus it is very easily available, because if the wood is not available, in that case the cost of transportation will be increased. So where the easily accessibility is possible, in that case we can use the wooden kind of poles in case of distribution system. Okay, now the usage of this kind of poles is going to be very limited due to the cost of wood. Okay, and that is why instead of wooden poles we are generally using RCC poles in case of distribution system. Now one of the disadvantage of wooden kind of poles is the coating of bitumen is applied at the bottom. Okay, for what? For to give the protection against the moisture as well as the termites. Okay, so these kind of poles are used in case of low voltage distribution system. When the voltage is less than 11 kV, we can use wooden kind of poles. Now there are three types of wooden poles that we are going to discuss today. The first is single pole structure, the second is A-type structure, and the third is H-type structure. Now let us discuss one by one each and every one. So the first one is single pole structure. So this kind of structure is used for the low voltage as well as the high voltage distribution lines, but are the only useful for the distribution purpose only. Okay. The voltage level of such kind of what we can say the distribution poles are less than 11 kV or somewhere around 11 kV. Now this can be used for the maximum span of 50 meters. Now the question will be, what is span? So span is nothing but the distance between two we can say consecutive poles. Okay, so that maximum will be 50 meters. So this kind of poles is cannot be used for the long distance distribution system. Okay, here you can see the steel cross arm are fitted on the poles over which the insulators are fitted. Okay, so this is nothing but the single pole structure. The second is A-type structure and the H-type structure, and when the application considered, both will be considered as the same application. So when the strength is more, we can say the mechanical strength of A-type or H-type of wooden poles is more with respect to single pole structure. Okay, so obviously your span will be increased if the strength is more. So span for A-type structure or the H-type structure will be somewhere around 60 meter to 80 meters. Okay, so just keep in mind that will be 60 to 80 meters, and these kind of structures are generally used in case of low voltage, or we can say 11 kV or more. Okay, so all three types of wood pole structures are here shown, and there is some limitations of the usage of this kind of poles. So let us discuss what are that limitations. So the first is very obvious, that the life of these kind of poles is only 20 to 25 years due to the presence of moisture in environment. That will be the dust, what we can say the termites and all these things will be there in case of wooden poles, so the life will be decreased. The second is it is liable to rot due to the termites and moisture. The third is it required frequent maintenance, and the fourth is mechanical strength is very less. So obviously with compared to other kind of poles, the mechanical strength of wooden poles will be very less. The fourth is it is not useful above 20 kV. So that is why the limitation of wooden poles is only it is useful for distribution purpose. We cannot use for transmission system. Okay, so this is all about wooden poles. Now let us discuss about the second, which is steel poles. So these kind of poles are generally used in case of distribution purpose, as well as we can also use in case of street lighting and seating. Okay, so its life is more than wooden poles obviously, and having pleasing appearance, and that is why it is useful in case of street lighting and city. And third is the maintenance in case of steel poles is less compared to wooden poles. Okay, now there is no problem of rotting due to the termites, but there is a problem of rusting due to the presence of moisture in atmosphere. Okay, so if we use these kind of poles in distribution system, then the line voltage should be around 33 kV. Okay, we cannot use the steel poles beyond 33 kV. So there are two types of poles. The first one is rail pole, and the second one is tabular pole. Okay, so we are going to discuss both these poles in detail. So these kind of poles are generally painted, or we can say galvanized, to prevent rusting. And if you look at the base of this kind of poles, so a base is plated is provided at the base to erect in the ground. Now the length of this kind of pole is somewhere around 7 to 10 meters, and or we can say most of the part, 1/6 part of your transmission, what we can say the tower, is buried in the ground. Okay, now here you can see that the muffing is provided, so the pole is very strength. Okay, this kind of poles is generally used in case of around 33 kV. Okay, if we talk about tabular pole, not about your rail pole. Now old railway tracks, or we can say the steel poles, or are I section type. Okay, here you can see L section type, but if you discuss about the old railway tracks, so that it looks something like this. Okay, here you can see that is I section type. Now if you look at the tabular steel poles, here it is shown that it is a hollow round steel pipes are used in case of tabular steels, and if you look at the diameter, it is distributed in some parts. So the lower diameter is very much higher, here the diameter is lesser, and at the topmost part the diameter will be very less. Okay, now these kind of poles can be used for street lighting purpose by bending the uppermost part. Okay, so this is nothing but the steel kind of poles. Okay, so basically it is also used for the distribution purpose, but high voltage distribution purpose. Okay, now let us discuss about the third pole, which is RCC pole. Now due to the unavailability of your wood and increasing cost of steel poles, the RCC poles becoming more popular. Now its mechanical strength is more and is used for more span length. So obviously if your tower has higher mechanical strength, then our span can be increased. Okay, now it does not require maintenance in compared to your wooden poles as well as steel poles, but it is used only for low voltage and high voltage distribution lines. Okay, so again these kind of poles is only used in case of distribution system. Now the main difficulty in case of RCC pole is the weight of tower will be increased, and that is why the transformation we can say difficulty come into the picture. So your cost also will going to be increased, and the transportation difficulty is also going to be increased. Okay, so this kind of distribution system is implemented mostly which we can say the fabricated near the site. Okay, now it also consider the H type of structure in case of RCC pole, and distribution transformer can also be we can say placed over it. Okay, so this is nothing but one of the snapshot of your RCC kind of poles. Now let us discuss the most widely used towers in case of transmission systems are latticed steel towers. Okay, so wooden pole or the RCC pole or the steel poles are not useful in case of high voltage transmission system. Okay, and for increased span, but in case of that application we are using high voltage transmission system, as well as for the longer span we are using latticed steel towers. Okay, now these structure are used for the transmission voltage up to 66 kV or more. Okay, so transmission voltage will be 66 kV or more, not up to, but that will be somewhere around 66 kV, or we can use for any kind of transmission voltage. Now in latticed steel tower there will be also two classification. The first one is the narrow base latticed steel tower, and the second one is broad base. Now if you look at this the design of the tower, there will be one conductor which is passing from the top of the tower, that is known as earth wire. Okay, in generally it is used for the protection against the lightning. Okay, now if you look at the mechanical strength of this kind of tower is also going to be higher than your wooden, your RCC and steel kind of poles. Okay, now let us discuss this narrow base latticed steel tower and the broad base tower in detail. So the first if you look at this figure, the first one is a narrow base tower. So this kind of tower is generally used up to the voltage level of 132 kV. Okay, up to the voltage of 132 kV or less, and the span in case of this kind of tower is also going to be lesser than your broad base tower. Here you can see this is nothing but the single circuit tower, and here it is double circuit tower. Okay, so here your R conductor will be there, your Y and your B is there. Here two R conductor, two Y and two B is going to be traveling parallelly. Okay, so when bulk amount of power is going to be transferred from your generating station to the distribution system, your double circuit towers are generally used. Okay, now when the voltage level is beyond 132 kV, so let's say the in case of 220 kV we are using broad base kind of tower. Okay, so this can be also single circuit tower and double circuit tower. In case of double circuit tower, there will be two earth wire which is going to be flow in a transmission line to protect your transmission system from lightning. Okay, so these are just mechanical design of what are the transmission or the distribution tower we are using, and what are the application, what are the limitation of this. Okay, now let us just briefly conclude over this lecture by comparison of different line support that we have generally discussed in today's lecture. So if you look at the wooden poles, the steel poles, the RCC poles, or the latticed structure, voltage level will be less in case of wooden poles, that is 11 kV. In case of steel, that is we are generally using 33 kV. In case of RCC, it will be less than 33 kV. Okay, but in case of your narrow base and broad base, voltage is higher because we are using in case of transmission. Okay, so this will be used in case of transmission, and all other three poles we are using in case of distribution. Okay, if you look at the span of your latticed steel structure will be higher than your wooden, steel and RCC pole. Okay, if you look at the cost will be lesser in case of wooden poles, but average in case of your steel and RCC, and more in case of your latticed steel structure. The lifespan of the pole will be higher in case of your steel, RCC and latticed steel structure, and lesser in case of your wooden poles. Obviously, maintenance will be higher in case of all the distribution towers. In case of your latticed steel tower, and the maintenance will be very less. So this is one of the advantage of using high latticed steel structure kind of towers. Now all the parts of this kind of towers are usually distributed, and we have to just joint all these things with the help of bolts. Okay, so that can be rearranged at the site where the tower is going to be located. If you look at the application, the wooden poles, obviously I have mentioned that it is used in case of distribution system only. So voltage level of this kind of poles will going to be low or high voltage distribution, but in case of transmission the voltage is going to be very high. So yeah, this is a little bit comparison of the different line support that we are discussed in today's lecture. If you have any doubt regarding the line support that we have discussed in today's lecture, just feel free to comment in the comment section, or you can contact me directly. So yeah, this is all about today's lecture. Thank you so much. See you guys next time.